What up, guys? GangstaPranksta here, bringing you a commentary, and we got a special topic to talk about. But before that, let me introduce a couple experts on this. Well, one expert, one dumbass. Um,
We
first
won't
up,
tell you which is which. You'll figure it out for
I was
yourself.
like, which one was I? God damn it.
all right. First, we got Kuta. Say something.
Expert, yeah. So
It's
That's
a trick
expert.
question. The
that's
dumbass
said
is the
it.
one talking.
And then we got the dumbass, which is Scorp. All right. Now the topic today is why don't people buy downloadable games? See,
Not just
Kuta's,
why don't people download games, is why don't they purchase them in the volumes that they buy more disc-based games, stuff like that. Okay, not let's
why don't people buy more
keep that.
downloadable games?
Yeah,
So
okay, whatever.
Kuta, why don't people buy more downloadable games?
Okay, let me get my notepad out because there's like a whole bunch of reasons. Mainly because they don't get the advertisement that most disc-based games have. They don't have the money, the developers, the backing of all the investors and stuff.
But
To
is
actually
that
promote
PlayStation
it.
Network and Xbox Live's
It's everything.
That could be
job
pretty.
to
That could
promote them?
be pretty much everything. It's respective to their own
Their
company, because
brand.
most Xbox Live arcade games, they get a lot of promotion from Xbox, but there's a lot of like legal crap that they have to go through, and I think the indie gamers actually get a little gypped in the end on that. But that's for another day. Today we're talking about why people don't buy them. So yeah, it's pretty much it's up to PlayStation, but the developers, they also have the responsibility. They need to put out demos, videos. Some games don't have either, and I think those games suffer a lot because you just see a game, you see a price tag, nothing else. There's not really much incentive for me to buy that game.
And a lot of
So
websites don't cover it, like IGN. They cover a lot of mainstream games and not downloadable games. You rarely like read or hear about downloadable titles.
definitely, Game Informer I think says like a one-page report like every month where they talk about maybe games that won awards, which is like pretty much the only publicity you can really get for an indie game, especially downloadable title. So unless it's really in that magazine or on IGN or any other publication, it's a crapshoot. It could be really good, it could be really crap. It's not something a lot of people want to waste their money on, pretty much, when they can get these blockbuster titles for $60, which are basically guaranteed hits. So
Yeah, but when I look at it like this, it's do you want to spend $60 on one game, or do you want to pay $60 and buy 6 games? Because
Yeah, but
usually
how
they're
much
around.
content do you get from those downloadable games?
Well, that depends what you buy.
Yeah, well, most of them are at most an hour of fun, unless you find like a gold mine
All right,
title that
here.
definitely,
lots
yeah.
of
Right.
replayability.
I brought Kuda in to talk about why people should buy a score. Why you buy a few here and there. Why don't you buy more downloadable games?
Why don't I buy more downloadable games?
Yes.
It just feels like it's a little bit of a risk because you buy a game and you don't know how long you're going to be playing it. Kuda just gave a whole bunch of reasons why people don't buy them. Most of them relate to me.
Okay. Well, what do you think either the developers or the companies need to do to entice people more to buy these downloadable titles? Anybody take the question?
Okay, this is gonna sound, like kind of. It's not gonna sound like the bright and sunny path, but these indie developers, they have to sell out. That's pretty much their only option, because you're gonna make a awesome game. Like let's take Pixel Junk. That's a for PlayStation fans, that's usually like your go-to downloadable game. They have a pretty good reputation. They're still pretty small, but if they want to make it to that next step where people are constantly waiting for their next game, they're gonna have to give up some of their rights to like their property, their intellectual property, pretty much, because that's the only way I can really see them going bigger than they are already. Because like where it's at right now, people want hard, physical copies of what they're buying. I mean, the digital era is kind of reaching its own, but people still like to have that actual, DVD, that actual CD, that actual game that they can hold in their hands, especially if they're going to be paying 15, $20, for something like that. It's just, they feel safer if they have it, like it's actually their
Isn't that the
property.
entire reason that one PSP like completely botched?
Yeah, the PSP Go. That was like the biggest thing. People, they didn't want to go completely digital. It wasn't, the consumer market wasn't ready for something like that
I
quite yet.
think in the next generation of consoles, it's going to be mostly downloadable. Like,
I don't think so.
I think so.
Even the new PSP, they went back to those micro SD cards.
See, I don't think technology's up to that point because for something like that, okay, how much does a like big PlayStation 3 title like fit on a disc? It's like 10, 15, 20, 30 gigs tops. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's an insane amount of data. And if they wanted to do that, they'd
It's
have
on
to
a Blu-ray,
package.
so it's over like 100.
Yeah, they'd have to package your system with huge hard drives, which would raise costs for the consumer, which would decrease sales. And at this point in like, the whole evolution of gaming and all that, I don't think people are ready for all those extra costs and everything. Because eventually, games could become cheaper because there's less they have to put into making boxes, discs, printing, factories, all that other stuff. But I don't think they're willing to dock the price for something like that either. Because usually you buy a game brand new, it's going to be that price tag. It's going to be $60. So
About that data and stuff, especially for me and most people living in Canada, we get a limit on our bandwidth, so it might even be more expensive to be downloading stuff of that size.
that might shut down freaking servers and stuff. Imagine Modern Warfare 3. How many copies did it sell first day? Like 4.4 million. I don't know. Correct me if I'm
Billions
wrong.
and billions.
That's a crap ton of like copies, and if it was all downloadable, basically the planet's internet would probably have to shut down for at least like a good week, because there'd be so much traffic, and it's just technology hasn't caught up to that curve that we need for full downloadable, access to our just basically our media in general. Because it's just
Question. Why are iPod games so, like, I guess you can consider, like, iPod games downloadable ones. I mean, you look at Angry Birds, one of, like, the biggest, like, downloadable games ever. Why are their games so successful compared to PlayStation Network and
Because you
Xbox
can't get games in any other form on an iPod besides downloading them.
Yeah, that's one pretty good reason. And also, have you looked, like, to go back to the data, dude, the games on a phone, they're like tiny. They take maybe minutes to download, and the cost too, like most phone games cost maybe $1, $2, $5 like tops.
Well, I bought Street Fighter for my iPod. It's about $6. They have games that are up to $10 on an iPod, I think.
Yeah, but it's still pretty like small compared to 15, $20 for a decent downloadable title for like a PlayStation or an Xbox or something like that.
Yeah, on a phone, and I could live with like Block Breaker on my phone. I rarely play anything on my phone anyway.
Do you think people are afraid to put their account and information on PSN because of the hack? Do you think that still affects people?
I think it affects some people. The majority of them, I'd probably say no, though.
Yeah, I don't think that really is a factor anymore.
So, why should more people buy downloadable games? Why should they download them and try them out?
Well, there's just some gems out there, like you talk about Braid.
Yeah, we'll get to that next.
Okay, well that's like the main point though. It's like there's just some games out there that are totally worth playing, and a lot of people won't end up playing them because of all the reasons we talked about. So it's just you have to actually take that chance, and hopefully the titles that are worth playing get like the publicity they need, because it's just too hard otherwise.
All right, now if someone were to come up to you and say, I wanna play more downloadable games, I want to try them out, I want to support indie developers and their awesome games, what games would you suggest for them to try?
Castle Crashers.
Definitely, I was gonna say the Castle Crashers, definitely a fun game. You can play with your buddies. Awesome story mode. You got a volleyball arena match. There's so much stuff to do. So many characters to play as. A lot of replay ability in that game. So
out of all my downloadable games, it's probably the one that I put the most time into.
Kuta,
Definitely. You could probably pick anything from the Pixel Junk series. That's just like a good developer if you want to start off, especially for PlayStation. That's like, I think PlayStation is pretty much like in-house indie developer to go to. That, and I don't remember the name. I think it's that game company who made Flower, and
that game company. That's the name of the company.
They're doing another game that just looks pretty amazing, especially for download title.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Stuff like that. Any of those is pretty safe bet. Like
Flower, Flow, the new game they got coming out. I also suggest DC Universe Online. Just went downloadable. It's free to play. It's a good
That one
RPG
got-
from what I've heard, and
That one got a bit of publicity though, so I don't think they'd have.
Yeah,
a
that
lot
was
of
also
problems.
a full disc title at one point too. So that
now it's a
was.
downloadable title and it's free, and I think people should check it out.
Yeah, I think they should check it out, but it's probably not in the same scope of things we're trying to talk
I
about. Because
understand.
that wasn't even indie developers. That was just a full out company. That's like if you can download Assassin's Creed now from Ubisoft off the store. That's not really, I guess, what we're trying to talk about. But yeah, I should probably check it out.
Dead Nation for PSN, I think that's good. A good
Pretty-
two-player co-op.
And see, we're talking about all these games. They're all kind of arcadey. That's another thing. If you're looking for that full like either RPG, racing, that whole immersive experience, you're not going to really find that in downloadable titles because most of them are arcadey, twin stick shooters, like just real stuff you would find like in arcades if they were still around, pretty much. And a lot of people, that's kind of why arcades, have been on the decline. They're not looking for that, 5 minutes of gameplay that's awesome and, fast-paced and exciting. They want that long-term experience, which you really don't find in a lot of DLC games. So,
But not a lot of downloadable games are like that. There's a majority of them are like that, but there are also some
So
that
a
are
lot of them are
immersive.
like that.
yeah.
Sure. But you have games like Dungeon Defenders. That's not really an arcadey game that you have to put some
Well,
time.
it's like, I guess that game would kind of blur the line a little bit, but if you look at it as a whole, it's still kind of arcadey. It's like, you have your levels, you have your sets. It just has a little more replayability because they try to add like long-term growth to it, but like end all, it's still kind of arcadey in the whole experience, which, for me and like lots of other people is great, but if you're looking for, any kind of story, any kind of long-term investment, it's hard to put it into stuff like that. It's just...
It's kind of just something to play to pass the time.
Yeah, they're
Not something
time
to
killers,
really
which...
invest.
And I don't know who our audience is. We're reaching for like casual gamers or the hardcore audience, but
I think the people that are on YouTube that watch gaming videos, I can consider them hardcore.
pretty much yeah. And like that's the problem with DLC games. They're not really geared. Like I'm gonna say like 75% are geared more towards like a casual audience. Pick up and play stuff like that. It's not gonna be geared towards the hardcore. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's hardcore downloadable titles out there. It's just those are the ones you have to go searching for, and it's
But
just,
even if it was for the casual people, would the casual people be looking up reviews for those games?
probably not. No, that's where the publicity and stuff comes in again. You need to be able to reach those people, reach your core audience. That's like the hardest part, especially with these indie titles that don't get the attention, I guess, they might or might not deserve. It's just it's difficult for them.
All right, any more games that we should recommend to people, and any last words about this topic?
There's probably a few. Outland was pretty fun.
Pac-Man Championship Edition, that was fun. I really enjoyed that.
And Dungeon Defenders, that's pretty cool if you're looking for a little more of an expansive type game. Fat Princess, that was like oldie, but I think it's still probably something that may be worth looking into.
Costume Quest was good. Very short though, and pretty pricey for what it was, but still a fun game. There's a lot. You should just check out the demos either on Xbox or PSN and just take it from there. And then you gotta do you want a shooter? Do you want an arcade game? Do you want a driving game? Just break it down from there.
I think you have to put more work into what you're looking for than the actual reward might be. So I think that's probably the biggest detractor from like hardcore gamers. It's just why go out looking for something when Modern Warfare 3 is right there. It's on the TV, it's everywhere. So it's just like I don't know. It's just more strikes against the little indie developers.
So I think people should check out more downloadable games. Would you guys agree?
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
Because there are some really good ones, and just people don't try and find them. So, go check PSN. Go check Underrated and Underplayed. Cheap plug, but I'll link the playlist. Go check some. There's some downloadable games in there. Mushroom Wars, definitely one of my favorites. So, well, thank you guys for being here, being my guest, talking about this topic.
No problem. Anytime. I'll be your resident expert. Whatever.
I'll be the resident dumbass.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Okay, so thanks, guys. Peace out. Go check out PSN and Xbox Live Arcade for games. We're out.